first and foremost, welcome to the first Startup Grind Edinburgh in quite a few months. Daniel was just reminding me actually, it's the 5th anniversary of when we first started back in 2014. And on that note, can I have a show of hands, anyone who's been here or been to Startup Grind before? Wow, Colin and really fantastic. So great to see you guys here. So I guess it's a quick introduction to Startup Grind, aiming to inspire, educate, and connect different entrepreneurs. And yeah, it's obviously a great chance to mingle with people who never have a chance to speak to normally and learn from some of the best in the business as well. So we run chapters worldwide, 600 chapters globally, which is pretty remarkable, in 150 different countries. So it's an incredible statistic as well. And this is just one of the few, well not one of the few, one of the many. So yeah, looking forward to getting started. We'll have a wee Q&A session at the end. Have a chance to pick Colin's brains and get some more good information. So yeah, without further ado, let's kick things off, and thanks again for coming. Fantastic. All right, my mic is working.
Because that's very exciting.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Is that all good, yeah? Fantastic. All right. So bring my trusty notepad with me. So I think naturally a good place to kind of start off, just kind of coming back to the 5th anniversary almost. So we welcomed Colin back in 2014, I can remember. So I think today is a great opportunity to, I guess, almost go through the entire story, but also cover the last 5 years and how much has changed, new lessons you've learned, and obviously the successes as well. So I was doing a bit of research during the week, doing a bit of my homework, so to speak. One of the things I found really interesting was speaking about your experience with If Looks Could Kill. Hopefully that's right. How important for you was almost kind of gaining experience of the pain points of not understanding cash flow, and how, I'm sure most people know what flow is, but how does flow for you kind of really tackle that?
That's a good question. So I really interested. Don't get asked that question that much, to be honest. Most people focus on starting from flow, but it is really important that I kind of knew from probably didn't know until I was at university that I started thinking about, do I want to work in a corporate job, or do I want to what I want to do? And I realized I was lucky to spend some time in LA. And met some. Anybody who's ever been to California, there's a bit of a different vibe over there, and especially around entrepreneurship. And so that I met people, a lot of people who start their own business. I came back and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to start a business. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I think we started. It was called Kill. It was a design studio, and that just felt like me. It was me. A friend who was at uni, who was an artist, who I taught how to use Photoshop, and I did computer science, so I could basically hack a website together, and we went out together and basically squatted in somebody's corner office, like at the corner of their office, and started this company. And we'd no costs. I wasn't used to having a lot of money, so it was an easy way into doing a startup with zero funds. And eventually, getting enough money to start to pay ourselves a small salary. And I think there's at that point, you've got a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I started taking Friday mornings to think about working on the business. I read a book called The E-Myth. I don't know how many of you read that, but I really liked it. It really kind of captured me. And so this concept of like Friday mornings working on the business, I'd journal, I'd write about the business, and I was like, how can I start to get more outside of the business? And the first thing that I decided I wanted to automate, or just was the finances. So at the minute, the way we were doing finances at that point was mostly in Excel. I was sending invoices in Word, and sometimes you'd open up the previous invoice and copy it over without sending. It was a disaster, but we were small, so it didn't matter too much. We'd send off at the end of the month our invoices and bills to our accountant, who would come in, a couple of times a year and then present us with our accounts at the end of the year. And so I kind of realized that this isn't really a good way to do things, and the system was completely dependent on me. Nobody else in the business could really understand it. And that, I think, was where the opportunity started coming, from building this spreadsheet to thinking, like, this is taking far too much time. And we looked at, accounting software back then. We started that company in 2002. So accounting software in the early 2000s was pretty bad. Sage was the sort of predominant thing. It meant we had to have a PC, which we didn't even have in the business. So we'd have to buy a PC, install Sage on it, and then send discs to our accountant every year, which just seems so wrong. So when we were lucky enough to meet the guys from Free Agent, and who were in cloud accounting, and we thought, this seems pretty cool. We gave it a try, loved it, and then realized that it didn't have any forecasting, and that was the bit that I really needed as a business owner to be able to make decisions. Is like, okay, I can see my bank account stops here, but what's it going to do in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months? Can I make payroll? So these are these kind of live problems that we had, and that was what got us to the point of having a problem that felt wanted to solve. And again, interestingly, for me, I got an opportunity. We started getting an opportunity to do more and more web applications in the business. So we were finding that was what was given. That was what we were enjoying doing, rather than just building flat websites. We were starting to really build software, and then we were approached by some of the startups coming out of the university informatics department who were getting going, and that got us into this whole startup world. And eventually we got invited to go over to Berkeley to a thing called Startup School, run by Y Combinator, for a day conference, which I applied for on a bit of a whim, and then almost fell off my chair when we kind of said, you've been accepted to go to this day conference. And that was transformational again, because we were, the website company was paying the bills, but we started with this idea. And I remember listening to Mark Zuckerberg speaking, Jason Fried from 37 Signals, and some other really impressive speakers, and just going like, I have to come back and do this. Like, this is the time. So it's funny kind of tracking back the life stages that got us to this point. And I suppose if you look back even further, the reason I had a spreadsheet for our business finances is actually because I had got into debt after being at university, and I decided I couldn't start a business and be in debt. So I was really motivated to try and get out of debt, and ended up building a spreadsheet to track what I was spending and bringing in, and that actually became the foundation for what Float became. So it was a lot of little things coming together that got us to the idea stage. And I think I do tell people who want to start businesses, often when we hear people who are at uni and they're coming out and they want to do a startup, it's like the problem that they're solving is often, you go to a new city and you don't know anybody and you want to play tennis, and our app is going to help you find that person, and that's great, but that's a really hard problem to solve at a scale. Whereas and who's going to pay you for it, unless it goes massive. And there's so many early ideas that are like that. And having a business problem that is real and that you felt the pain of, it makes starting a company much easier, because businesses are much more willing to pay money if you can save them a couple of hours of your time. And that was certainly something that we found quite useful.
Fantastic. And one of the things that, and I'm hoping this all factory correct, so apologies if some of this from the internet.
My answers won't be that long. That's just the background.
No, it's brilliant, Colin. It saves me speaking, so it's great. So one of the things that I saw you speaking about recently was, I guess, almost coming back to the customer at heart. And one of the real pain points, I guess, for you was scaling. Once you get to, beyond a handful of customers, really starting to increase the numbers, were there any kind of big challenges with going from a kind of small scale from a customer point of view, with obviously understanding the pain point and ensuring you had good quality as well?
Yeah, so one of the first, the way we started Float was we got a basic prototype together, and then we started, we weren't having a huge amount of signups when we were only integrating with Free Agent, I think we had about 40 a month, so it was kind of manageable. And then we started realizing like this isn't going to work. If we're only going to get 40 trial signups a month and convert 10, that's never going to scale. And we didn't realize at the time, and this is just again like ignorance, but we didn't really do our market research. So I didn't realize like 90% of free agent users were sole traders who weren't really worrying too much about their cash flow. I thought they'd all be like me. They'd all be businesses that are 5 people, 6 people, 7 people. Who need a system, and that was wrong. And we then went to the market and found that a lot of people were using a new system called Zero, which is obviously not so new now. There are a couple of million customers and global, but we were able to then take that and knowledge and build for Zero. And then when we the way we did that was we put a waiting list up because we wanted to see if there's any interest in Zero, if that was going to even be a thing. So put a holding page up with an email saying if you're interested in cash flow for Zero, let us know. And we were amazed at like the number of signups that started coming. We just promoted through social media, and I think we got to like 500 people on the waiting list, which was just really exciting in a couple of months. And so we started to let them come in in groups in the early days. So that was actually a really good piece of advice, just to not let them all in at once, because it meant that we got meaningful feedback from 50 customers when we let them in. We'd fix the stuff that they told us was wrong, and then we'd go back and let another 50 in, and then we'd fix the next batch of stuff. So it was a way to be manageable whenever I couldn't have managed like hearing from 500 people at once. But then we started getting to the point where when we opened it up publicly, we were still getting like hundreds of customers, and it was really hard to keep track of, it was only me and my co-founder Phil, and I was replying to some, and he was replying to some, and we were both replying to the same person, and this was all just done with Gmail, and then I asked, he built a basic database thing that I could access, and we could try and track it that way, and then we discovered a product called Intercom, which kind of answered all our prayers, because it was like, here's all the users, here's who's logged in, and you can speak to the customers within the app. So that was a real lifeline for us in terms of managing who was doing what. But still, there's a lot of work to be done there. But at least it helped us to know exactly which customers were active and which ones to prioritize in terms of time, because you want to prioritize your early active users. At the beginning, like without those systems in place, it was really difficult to know who to be talking to. So yeah, we tried to speak to local people because we could actually get them in and watch them use the product. But we were building a product that really we had no idea if anybody would actually use. I mean, I knew that I would use it, and a lot of our learning was like, people are not like me. They're not that into like the first version of Flow. You literally had to reconcile every bank transaction that came in against a budget that you'd done to see if they matched up, and then we worked out how to automate that. But before we had that, I just thought everybody will, this is so important, everybody will do it, and not everybody wants to do that. Even now with our product, like there's even though we've made it so much easier, there's still a lot of businesses that are kind of happy just to not know. Like they'll just look at their bank account and they'll kind of take a rough estimate, and so that is changing. Is changing, but it's we were early to market, so there's a lot of challenges there.
Fantastic. And one of the things that I was keen to ask you about was almost having that, not quite support, but with Free Agent and Zero as well. How important for you was not quite partnering, but having them to work with?
Yeah, I mean, being part of an ecosystem is brilliant, because we try. I mean, there's pros and cons. The big pro is that Zero were doing all this legwork, and it's easy to find Zero customers. So you just go on Twitter and see who's mentioning Zero, and then follow them, and then write to them and say, hey, are you interested in cash flow? And they'd be like, oh no, that sounds cool. And so that really accelerated it for us. Whereas if you're trying to build a product just for all businesses, it becomes kind of like, why should I listen to you? But you're like, hey, you love Zero, you're obviously an early adopter, why not try this product as well? And then we were able to start going to Zero conferences and events. All the getting mentioned in Zero blogs was started to funnel in through information. The downside is that you are narrowing yourself, but I'd still probably choose that if I was doing it again, because just those early days of having a community and finding those passionate followers of Zero really helped us know how to focus. And you're always looking at the beginning for early adopters, so that was, and even still, like in the accountancy world, Zero is pretty early. There's a lot of people who, a lot of accountancy firms still even don't have a website, believe it or not. So it's a slow moving industry, but Zero led the way for us, and we've been lucky that their success has really helped us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And one thing which is always, I guess, topical for anybody starting a business from scratch, or I guess scaling, is something we chatted about earlier, with VC funding. I guess always not quite controversial, but always a hot topic. And I guess for you guys, keen to take a slightly different approach, and how important do you think that's been to take a different route?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I really had no idea. I remember when I went to startup school, and people were talking about closing Series A, and I didn't even know. I had no idea what's this Series A? What are you talking about? I didn't know the language. We'd run a small business, and it just was a whole other world out there. We had a lot to learn. Luckily, we applied for a thing called Seed Camp in London, and we got on to that, and that was 2 days of like real baptism by fire into that world. And Seed Camp, like they literally have, you stay in one place and all these groups of people come and challenge your business model, and you're presenting, and we learned a lot through that, and that really expanded our network. But you really, I in the early days, it seems crazy to admit it, but I thought that basically investors were like your rich uncle. You go and say, hey, we've got a really good idea, can we have some money? And it might be really big, and then we'll give you your money back somehow. And I actually still meet people who think that's kind of the way it works. Like, what's the interest rate on the return that you give to your investors? And I think it's just taken a while. Maybe I'm a bit slow, but it took a while for the whole, like, getting the mindset of what the world of investment is. And actually, I think, and being able to pitched it so badly in the early days. I think when we started off, Fraser had like 10,000 customers and Zero had 22,000, so the market was tiny, and investors were just like, this isn't a market, like we're looking for, billions, and it's too small. But I think maybe there was just something in us that knew that it was going to be big, even though we didn't know how to communicate it. And we failed so many times to raise money, and eventually found an investor locally, Rob Dobson, who was willing to put some money in, and that kind of gave us our big break in that. But it was angel money, and again, we were lucky because we could have, in the early days, it's really, you sort of think, right, we need to raise 100,000. There's so many different ways you can raise that, and it seems the same. It's the same 100,000 to you, but the terms in which you take it are so different. So we've been really fortunate in that I've had the time to understand and learn what those different routes mean for the business and for the life choices that we made. So yeah, we've been. I think we're of the opinion. And for me, there's two things that I kind of prioritize. One is my sanity, and always this thing like, do we want to go on this journey of like trying to become a $1 billion company, which seemed to be what what you had to say in order to get the magic money from the VCs, and I think there was always that resistance for me to really say that. And even I think now we've kind of got to the place where it finally makes sense to us that we think that Float could exit at some point for a really good multiple of our revenue. We think a good exit would be 100 million, but for a VC that's really not that much, and the reason for that is because they might have invested $1 million or a couple of million. Even if they return 20 million, their job is to take their 200 million pound fund and return 5 million or 6 million, and so your little 20 million that you're returning isn't really going to move the needle for them. and so it really needs to be you need to be playing on a much bigger scale. So I think we just look at it and think that's not really, we don't need to do that to be successful. We think there's a really good opportunity here where we're just under $1 million in revenue at the moment, and to go $1 million, $2 million, $4 million, $8 million feels like, you know, realistic for us as we expand, and it's still really hard to do that doubling. And even zero, that's the path they've gone on with their UK customer growth. But to try and be pretending that we're going to do, you know, 100 million in revenue by year 5 just seems like, and some of our competitors would claim that they're going to do this. It just feels like it's not really that's not the right path for us to take. So we've been quite luckily, we've kind of fallen into that path, but actually investors have said this is quite refreshing, and really the challenge for us is to find the right alignment where we're matching the expectations of what we're trying to do with our investors, which is still do 10 to 20 times the return, which for a lot of people would be a very good return. But at the scale that we're raising for at this stage, it's not really right for VC. So we've kind of fallen into that, but I think there's a lot of stuff around trying to help early stage companies get VC or push them into that model, and a lot of people have to be more honest and say that's not the route we want to go down.
Oh, definitely.
But we certainly, in the early days of the tech scene, it was like that's what everybody wanted. They all wanted to pitch VCs because they were the ones with the money, and it was like get on the VC bandwagon and then figure out later how you're going to do it, and that never really sat comfortably with us.
Definitely, and one of the things I was reading was it's been about Banjo. You know, it's been one of the almost, I guess, examples of the dangers of VCs and that kind of route. And I guess going back to kind of expanding and growing, and I'm hoping this is right, probably it's not, but speaking about new hires and growing the team, bringing on Nick Cole, CMO. Got that right, okay. Then Jenny or Jennifer for COO.
Jen, yeah.
And then Tim for CTO. Otherwise, thank God. But I guess for you, how's the transition been from maybe being more hands-on to being comfortable saying to your team, you know, I'm happy to delegate all these tasks and take a kind of different role? Yeah. How's that been for you?
So yeah, again, I'm lucky to have our Rob Dobson, who was our chairman for a number of years. He's just stepped down, and we've got a new chairman recently called Paul Chowdhury. And but Rob's always said to me, you know, your job as a CEO is to do nothing. Like that's where you want to end up, is not to be needed operationally at all. And you know, that's quite a hard thing for me to do. You know, certainly, you know, I was laughing with Jen, our CEO, today, because I'm saying, like, I think we should get some plans for the office, and she's like looking at her list and trying to work out when she's going to meet a plant person to come into the office, and I've got some fairly, like, you know, fixed ideas about what sort of plants they should be, you know, like that stuff. And what sort of coffee we should drink. But yeah, that's been very much on my mind of how I can stop getting in the way. And so understanding, you know, Kirsty Bathgate, who coaches us, sort of says, like, it's when you start a company, you get the title CEO, but you're not really, you know, you've no experience of being a CEO. You're really a founder, and then you're trying to work out as a CEO the right job for you. So I've been keen to be the CEO and figure out what that means, but a big part of that is stepping back and realizing that when you say things as a CEO, like it can be really confusing to your team. So if I go to our product team and say, I've got this really good idea for a feature, guys, I think we should do this, then that can be really confusing for them, because they're like, is he saying that we should stop what we're doing right now and do this? What if we say no, we're gonna get fired? You know, like, is this just an idea? Can we just park it? Like, it's really, I'm learning that the voice can be really damaging as well, of what you say, and really unhelpful. So I'm trying to work out where do I contribute best. And a big part of that this year has been realizing, like, we need more people at the senior team level to be able to do some of that. So I don't need to be there. So hiring Jen was the first one we really looked for, a COO, and that's just been an incredible hire for us. She's been fantastic, and loads of experience, loads of financial experience. She's a CA, so she gets the whole accounting world, but she's really hands-on. And I think when you come to find senior people, it's really hard to find a balance of people who are, not just going to sit there waiting for their minions to do stuff for them, because that's maybe what they've been used to. So finding people who are hands-on and can be strategic in leadership at a leadership level is really difficult. But we're lucky in that Jen has both of those qualities, and she is really now, I feel like she runs the business and is responsible for all the stuff that I'm probably not great at, and that allows me to focus on what they've said they want me to do, is to be out there speaking at events like this and promoting the company and being the face of the company, because the company needs that, and building strategic relationships with our partners, and writing and just being the ambassador for the company, which is what a lot of companies startups don't get the chance to do that whenever they're really in the operational details. So that's the transition, and then bringing on Nick to head up sales and marketing, again, somebody who's more out there but willing to build that team and lead that and make those strategic calls, because there's with the marketing budget that we've got now, that it's really hard to know what to do and what not to do, and you've got to make some difficult decisions, and so he's doing that, and then Tim, our CTO, kind of heads up the product and engineering side. But learning how to meet as a team, and learning these guys they're not co-founders. It's different relationship. My co-founder left in 2013, so I've been sort of solo founder for a while, and I think I've realized that I still have to be a leader in that team and think about what they need and what their development is, and not just a sort of it's a different relationship than I think you have with co-founders. It's hard to explain, but there's certainly something there. We're friends, like we get on well and we have a laugh, but at the end of the day, I've got to play that leadership role and think about how we're operating as a leadership team and a senior team, and that's something we really prioritize. Like, how are we working together? Because of the way we work and the way we model our meetings and how we treat each other is going to filter down into the company. So that's really become a big focus for me.
Fantastic. Well, did the PR thing very well, I see, God. So that's anything. Fantastic. I think on some ways really interesting as well, and I guess very appropriate with code base being a spitting distance, almost literally. I saw you speaking about bringing on, I guess, was it kind of coders or bringing on staff from Codebase who've been trained up. How important do you think it is, I guess, going back to the ecosystem? Code Clan, sorry. Of course not. So Code Clan, how important do you think it is for Scotland as a whole, and maybe even Edinburgh specifically, to almost support startup ecosystem, whether that be with having the staff available or the training? And
how important is Code Clan?
Yeah, and just
I mean, I think Code Clan's brilliant, and it's so hard to hire engineers in Edinburgh, and probably even harder in London. So it's easy to complain, but it's just hard in general. And there's a lot of people that are hiring in that world. And gosh, if you can go back and tell all your younger friends to go and become software engineers, because it's a great, the ramp is it's just they've got their pick at the moment. It's almost like when we're hiring software engineers, where like they're interviewing us, and we're like, please come and work with us, and that's just the way the market is at the moment. But so Code Clan's been good. We've hired a couple of people from Code Clan. It's not always the right fit. So people are sometimes checking it out, but there's the nice thing you get is, like, one of our guys, Bertie, was a policeman and retrained as an engineer, and he's just done a brilliant job. But he's also just got that life experience that you wouldn't get with somebody coming straight out of uni. But if you're trying to hire a software engineer with 4 or 5 years experience, the salary levels are just getting ridiculous. So it's you need to have. It's hard to do it when you're bootstrapping or just early stages. So we're thinking a lot about that, and what's our strategy for that. I'm really keen that we don't go offshore. I really want to keep, there's something when you're working on a product and you're really trying to innovate, that getting everybody in the same room and standing around a whiteboard and figuring out what you're going to do it's really good to be co-located. So I'm not a big remote fan, although I can totally see why companies do it, especially if you've got a product that you're you know what it is, you just need to build it. But we've always been in that, like, we've got to move fast, we've got to innovate, we've got to try stuff. So we want people in the office. But yeah, so I think CoClan's doing their bit for helping you know, get people into those roles, and hopefully the universities are too.
Fantastic. And yeah, I guess going back to university, and if you hypothetically, if you had a chance to go back and I guess kind of teach yourself one lesson from when you were starting from now, kind of looking back in hindsight, is there anything that really stands out as a kind of lesson learned from the West?
No, I think it's one of those things. I think Steve Jobs said that it's easy, you know, it's really hard to connect the dots looking forward, but when you look back, you can kind of see the pattern. And so for me, I've always tried to think about what I want to be doing, you know, just as a human, and what excites me and what energizes me, and that's been a good, that's sort of served me well. It's funny because I did computer science at uni and I was a terrible developer. So I think it showed me what not to hire. It gave me the skills to at least talk to software engineers and know how to find people that were good and better than I was. But I think, yeah, going back, I don't know. I think interestingly, there's a lot of people coming out of uni from software degrees and computers that the universities haven't equipped them with the skills to be in the real world and be able to go straight in. So the advice that we would give to students is often like, you know, you need to pick this stuff up by yourself. And we've had some brilliant people coming in as interns who have just applied directly to us and said, look, I'm really interested, and they've shown that they know some of the tools that we're working with, and that's really good. So you can actually really differentiate yourself. I think I met a guy at Startup Grind or something who was third year student, and I was at one of these events, and he was just really impressive. So we've kind of kept in touch, and there's a whole string of opportunities for that. So, and I think if you're interested in doing business, you've got to work out where you're going to meet the kind of people you want to run businesses with, and so these kind of events are really good for that, and tech meetup and all that kind of stuff. So we've tried to, in the early days, I've tried to be involved in that as much as possible.
Fantastic. So I guess kind of final question for now, Colin, and do some Q&A if that's okay.
Love to.
Brilliant. So first of all, thanks so much for coming down. Again, I know you're incredibly busy and obviously growing and expanding as ever, which is brilliant. So I guess kind of wrap up and just kind of bring it together almost. Have there ever been any moments where you've kind of maybe felt a bit overwhelmed and of course. And if so, have there ever been, what's your kind of go-to strategy almost, or have there ever been any good kind of habits or tools that have worked effectively?
Good question, definitely.
Not putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So, I mean, all the time, I think there's a lot more awareness now, I think, in the startup community of mental health, and it's talked about a lot more. And you know, Phil, my co-founder, talked quite openly on his blog about some of his challenges around mental health and how he coped with that, which is really worth a read. And I think you know, there's been lots of times in our journey where it's felt like almost it's overwhelming, the amount of stuff that you're just thinking, how can we even go on from here? Like I think on Friday, one of our biggest competitors, we found out, just got awarded $5 million in grant funding, and we were just sitting and looking at that, going, $5 million free money, and we're raising $1 million at the moment, and they've just raised another $5 million before that, so they're $10 million, and you know, you're just thinking, how do we pick up from that? But I think what I said to the team was, it's so, you know, you have to really take a bit of time out, don't react in the moment, get some perspective, and it's often like your first reaction isn't the right reaction. And I told the team a story about, when we were just integrated with Free Agent, really back in the early days, so it would have been 2013, maybe 2012, Free Agent acquired, as part of a funding round, a forecasting company. And I actually remember my wife phoning me up in tears going like, I've just seen this, is this the end? Like, is it all over? And I was like, oh no, I haven't managed this very well. But actually, that is funny. You look back at that now, nothing happened with that. Like, that company, they never even deployed that company. I think it was more like an acqui-hire, and it's funny how you can just react to these situations. And then when Phil decided he was leaving early in the company, I remember thinking, it's over. Like, I can't code. I'm not going to. There's no, like, we can't bring in an experienced software engineer like Phil, who's really, the journey we've been on together and all the discovery stuff. It's just, we can't afford to hire somebody at that level. Again, it's over. And I found a friend of mine who was a coach actually sent me a framework for walking through steps of change. And I remember I just found it so helpful, and I keep going back to it, and I've worked through it with a bunch of people in the past, which is just, there's 20 steps that you go through, and it starts, I don't know them off by heart, but it's like, what is changing, how does it feel, take some time in that, what does it mean, and what could I not do, what can I not do now that I could do before, and then you kind of circle back around to what is possible now that wasn't possible before. And I remember getting to that point and going, actually, we've got a code, we've got a product. I didn't have that before, so I didn't have a co-founder right in the early days, didn't have a product. So I've just got a new challenge, and also there's some freedom in this to kind of go out and start again. So every time we've hit challenges, that's kind of a framework that I come back to go, let's just take a pause, and it's never as bad as you think. And even like, that's just a thing for me of like trying to build mental resilience and mindfulness and stuff. I find it really helpful. Like, sometimes even in meetings, I'll find if I'm getting defensive or I'm getting frustrated, just being able to like get a bit more into your head and go, why am I feeling like this? What's going on? Rather than I am angry, it's like, I'm noticing that I'm angry. Why? And not to identify with that. I find it really helps, because you're just taking a step back and you're sort of mastering like your psychology a bit. And so that's again, has served me really well in not reacting and not flying off the handle and doing damage, which is not to say that I've been perfect at that the whole time, but it's definitely a learning of how do I want to be. And so we're still here, I think, is a big thing. So we feel like we're at a really exciting stage, and there's loads of opportunity, and that's the part to come back to and keep realizing that, rather than feeling like all the things that we're not doing, all the things that our competitors are doing, all the challenges ahead, but actually just we're here and we're working hard and we're doing our best, and that's all we can do. And that's really helped me kind of come back and stick at it and be positive.
Fantastic. Well, brilliant note to end on. Yeah, staying positive is fantastic. So yeah, thanks again, Colin. Really appreciate you taking the time, and got some time for Q&A. If anyone's keen for some questions. Oh, some volunteers already.
It's a bit quick off the mark.
Hi, Andrew. I've got gold and microphones, so I'm going to ask you.
Go for it.
The first one is, I'm sure many other people here have been really inspired by the whole Silicon Valley thing. Have you considered relocating, part of your team out there?
I've considered moving out there, and yeah, I've considered it. Whenever I went to San Francisco first, I fell in love with it. I just thought it was the best city in the world. And we've been, I've probably been over there like 20 times in the last 20 years, back and forward. And the last few times I've been out there, I've actually really started to notice like it's kind of cracking a bit. It's the polish is maybe coming off, and I don't know if that's just me getting older or if it's actually there's a lot of change happened there in the last 5-10 years in terms of property prices and poverty and it's the real gap between the rich and the poor. So because I think we decided we didn't need to be on that venture scale, but partly because we've got kids now, I just love Edinburgh. It's kind of drawn me back to being like I want to be here at this stage, and maybe I'll spend a year. I think just there's so much positivity over there, which can seem a little bit superficial to us, but it does kind of have that like go for it mentality, and I'd love our kids to get a bit of that. So it's more for my kids than for the business that I love to get out there for a period of time, like a year or so. But right now, I think we can do, we can do what we need here, and we are looking at opening an office in the US, but whether or not we would actually do it in San Francisco now is just because of the price of all the things, like the hiring, it's a bit, there's a few more question marks. So we haven't thought where we would go in the US, but even in LA, for me, because we've got connections there, feels a bit more like I could see myself living there more, or the East Coast, like Boston or something like that. It feels like it's so much more connected to the UK. The West Coast is just so far. The day's ending whenever or starting whatever it is whenever you're, there's very little overlap. So yeah, I'm tempted, but for us, I don't see us doing it anytime soon. But I can totally understand. I mean, Intercom, a good example, company that did it. They're like, we need to be out here. We're gonna have to raise multiple rounds of VC. Like, I think you have to consider that. But because we're not on that path, it's probably not the right one for us at the moment.
And the other thing, it's a very impressive product, which I think is now up there with some enterprise products. Have you considered moving up into that enterprise market?
Yes, that's a good question. I think again, like naively, when you look at the number of businesses, SMEs in the UK, and we're actually looking globally as well, I think it's like 90% of the 4.9 million or whatever 5 million it is are under 10 people, and so you do really go down, you do really start to narrow in, but obviously the price that people are willing to pay is significantly more, because Xero charge £25 a month, whereas something like NetSuite is hundreds, if not thousands of pounds a month, and there's not a huge difference in the products. So we have thought about it, but we're almost kind of waiting and seeing what happens in the market. It's almost like the market's big enough that it just feels like that might be a distraction for us at the moment, because there's so much to gain in this space, and we don't want to let our competitors come in and sort of take over there. So I think there's still time for us to do that, and I'm really interested to see if Xero are going to start to do that, because they always said we're aiming at small businesses, we're not going to go into that next level. But I think companies that are we're all kind of growing up using Xero or QuickBooks as a platform, and we're not going to want to change to anything anytime soon. And I can't imagine us changing by the time we're 50 employees. So it's just finger in the air. But I think Xero possibly going to do that, and QuickBooks are working on a QuickBooks Advanced product. So there's possibly feels like easier stepping stones for us right now. It's always something I'd like to do, because I just find like building a product that's 25 quid. I mean, we're now charging like 30 to 50 quid a month for our float, but building a product at 15, 20 pounds a month is really difficult. And so ideally, we pay hundreds of pounds for certain products that we use. And I'd like to be at that point when your product costs like more than the month of the weekly coffee run. So it's tempting. Happy to chat more about it afterwards.
Fantastic. Any more questions, guys?
Hi, Colin.
Hey.
So you mentioned earlier about building the senior team and how that's giving you a chance to step back and be a bit of a brand ambassador. And my question is, as you bootstrapped the team and the company, what are you going to do now to make sure that the values that you had at the start of the race are going to be instilled to the new members of staff without you being there to guide them?
Yes, it's a good question. So I think this is something we are talking about at the moment because we've made some hires in the past that haven't worked out, and I think when the new team only started in January, so we've taken some time to, I think we just recognise that when it's all been very go and sell and build, and how do we not forget that if we get that hiring piece wrong, it can be really destructive and really damaging. So we are due to spend that. We didn't get to it on our strategy day to day, but that is very much on the jumping up the agenda. Like, let's revisit, because you get together and talk about your values, but it's only until you've got really concrete examples of like, why is that person not operating on this value system? Like, we talk about being above the line, below the line on what our values are. So we did a values piece right in the early days when they started, but we now need to revisit it and go like, what do we really mean by that? What do we really mean by curiosity? Or like, why did that person not exhibit this value that we hold it's really important for us? And how do we make sure we test for that in the future in a better way? So yeah, it has to come from the team, and sometimes they have to make their own mistakes, and we have to learn that way. But yeah, it's definitely something that I need to be. I think I need. It's one of the areas that I can't let go of just yet. It's a good question.
Thanks.
Fantastic. I think time for one more maybe. I'm sure Colin will be around for a wee bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to stick around. Yeah.
Don't keep you too long, of course, but.
So hello, my name is Martin, and I had a question about startups. And so more new startups are coming up, and the investment money is getting kind of dry. And there was a new debate on how maybe we should teach new entrepreneurs about effective bootstrapping methods instead of teaching them on how to gain investment money. So I would like to know for you, what do you think now is a better or stronger foundation to build a sustainable startup? Thank you.
That is a brilliant question. I don't know if the money's running dry. I think there's more money than there's a lot of money around. But I do think that it's whether or not people want startups should take that money in the early days is a good question. There's a book that I read. I heard a guy actually, Informatics Ventures had him up. I think he's called John Mullins, and he wrote a book called The Customer Funded Business, which I really recommend. And he goes through 5 different ways that businesses can get to revenue, and I find it really helpful. And we actually did that. We with Float, the way we got money early on was we sold a lifetime product, and we sold it for £300 a lifetime value, and that was basically crowdfunding. We sold 100 licenses and we raised 30,000 through that. And that was, people did well out of that. They got the product. Some people got the value. They had that license for 5 years and didn't pay any more. So that was really good value for them, and it really helped us. And so I think finding your early, champions and asking them to put some money, even just, for us at £300, that wasn't that much, but get 30,000 for us in the early days was really helpful, and it was like people had committed to it and it built their loyalty. So I think definitely, it sometimes feels like it's easy to go out and try and raise money in the early days, but I think more and more, if you can get some early funding, it just buys you some time to make that decision. Do we want to take this money? Because if you raise too early, you get really diluted, and it can really hurt the whole business going forward. It's about I think it's about realizing that you've got options, and I think too many people look to, there's a bit of an ego thing in the early days. I remember like, oh, how much have you raised? We're raising 500, we're raising $1 million. And you're like, oh. But actually, if you can get the money we don't celebrate enough companies getting revenue. So it's like, you know, if we put out in the news like tomorrow we've just raised $1 million, like I'd get all people like going, that's amazing, well done. And it's like we've just convinced a few people to put some money into the company. Like, but if we put out like our revenues have reached $1 million, that doesn't get picked up in the news in the same way. But for me, it's like exponentially bigger achievement. So I do think we do have to sort of, if we can help businesses do that, and it is about finding customers and asking them for money. A money dashboard is a good way. And you know, they've just raised 3 or 4 million through crowdfunding. So I think crowdfunding helps, and it's a good way to get around money together without taking too much dilution as well. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I do think the bootstrapping option is really, really great.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Colin. I know we've got plenty of questions from everyone else afterwards. So once again, massive thank you for coming down. It's so nice to have almost a nice link between started Grind Edinburgh from 5 years ago and now obviously how far you've come to, which is fantastic. So a bit more of the kind of admin side of things. So just another, hope this is going to work. Oh, maybe not. What should we got it on here? Add next few slides. Once again, a massive thank you to CMS, first of all. Such a brilliant venue, and again, getting a brilliant view for us, but of the castle, and helping out with the food and drink and everything, and just being so welcoming. I've got something as a quick thank you for Colin as well. Just a quick box, just next to Daniel there. Just as a thank you for coming down. It's just a box of kind of goodies from Social Stories Club. So they're a startup from University of Edinburgh. Essentially make gift boxes from socially conscious businesses.
Should I open it now?
If you want, yeah, if you like.
Everybody wants to say, oh right.
So
it's gonna get messy. But there's a bar of chocolate.
So always good.
Sawdust.
Good bit of food.
Thanks.
Oh, fantastic. So great, and we'll be around until 9 p.m. when the kick is out. So feel free to get some more pizza and some more beers and have some more chats. And thanks again to you guys for coming down. It's been amazing to have so many people for the relaunch. It's great to see so many of you guys in the community so keen to learn, connect, inspire each other. So and yeah, so you guys enjoy. I'll get the event up very soon. You're speaking to Lowell Quinn from Sustainably. So really looking forward to that. Obviously big shoes to fill after Colin's interview, so I'm sure it'll be just as good. So yeah, so all that remains, plenty more networking, a bit more food and drink, and see you guys next time as well.